Have you ever, stared at a blank screen, just feeling that horrible creeping sensation that your best work is entirely behind you?
Oh, yeah. That is a terrifying place to be.
Right. Think about how vulnerable that actually makes you. Like, what would you be willing to ignore just to get that spark back?
Probably quite a lot, honestly.
Exactly.
Mm.
Would you brush past a faded red thread tying a handwritten note to an antique you just bought?
Well,
Because the note explicitly says, do not hang this where you sleep.
see, the desperation of a failing career makes a person incredibly pliable. And that's exactly the vulnerability we're exploring for you today.
Yeah.
Through the story of Kabir Malhotra. I mean, he's a true crime author whose pursuit of this idea of authenticity completely breaks him.
And since we know you're fascinated by the intersection of media and psychology, we pulled a source for today's deep dive that's, well, it's going to make you look at your own workspace very differently.
Oh, absolutely.
It's presented as a psychological thriller called The Mirror That Remembered. But the underlying question it poses is just deeply unsettling.
It really is.
It asks, what physically happens to our brains when the media we gorge on to fuel our work or even just to pass the time actually starts digesting us from the inside out?
And the inciting incident perfectly captures that creeping dread.
Yeah, tell them about how it arrives.
Right, so the mirror Kabir buys, it arrives swathed in this heavy black cloth. There's no return address, just that one handwritten warning.
See, if I get a package like that, I'm putting it straight into an incinerator.
Right. Just burn it.
Seriously, who reads, "Do not hang this where you sleep," and thinks, "Oh, perfect, I'll just put it in my home office"?
Well, someone who has spent their entire life analyzing violence from a completely safe, detached distance, he sees provenance.
Yeah, he sees it as a tool.
Exactly. Let me give you the backstory of this object because it's crucial to understanding the mechanism of what happens next.
Okay, set the scene.
So he buys it at an estate auction outside Kolkata, and it supposedly belonged to a British police investigator back in the 1800s.
Wow. Okay.
And there's this persistent local legend attached to it. They say if you stare into the glass long enough, it reflects the violent crimes that occurred in the room where it hangs.
So it's basically like a surveillance hard drive for trauma.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
It has this lineage of being owned by people who professionally observe the aftermath of brutality.
That is so dark.
And physically, it totally matches that heavy atmosphere. I mean, it's a towering Victorian piece framed in dark wood. The carvings are these dense, twisting floral patterns.
They aren't just flowers.
No, if you catch them in the right light, the text describes them as looking like screaming faces.
Ugh, I remember reading that part
Yeah.
and literally shuddering.
Yeah.
But there's also something going on with the glass itself, isn't there? Like the way it reflects the room,
Yes. It's slightly warped.
like a funhouse mirror.
Not drastically, no, not like a fun house, but just enough to gently bend reality at the absolute edges of your peripheral vision.
Oh, that's almost worse.
It is, because you think you're seeing a perfect reflection, but the boundaries are fundamentally compromised.
Okay, but let me push back on Kabir's mindset here for a second.
Sure.
He's a writer. He knows the tropes. I mean, even if he doesn't believe in the supernatural, isn't it incredibly arrogant to bring an object steeped in that kind of dark history into the place where you create?
Oh, completely.
It's like he thinks his intellect makes him bulletproof or something.
And that is his fatal flaw right there. Kabir intellectualizes murder. He's fascinated by, the geometry of blood spatter, the psychology of motives.
Cold hard facts.
Exactly. He genuinely believes that because he doesn't get emotionally hysterical about crime, he's somehow immune to its psychological toll.
Right.
But the psychology of trauma just doesn't work that way. I mean, the human brain absorbs what it's exposed to.
Yeah, you can't just turn that off.
Right. So that warped glass is a brilliant metaphor for his ego. He thinks his perception is totally clear, but his edges are already bending before he even drives a nail into the wall.
So his edges bend, and he hangs the thing up in his writing studio, which I guess, to be fair, is technically obeying the note. He's not sleeping there.
Technically, yeah.
But then the mirror starts contributing to his process.
Yeah, it gets involved. 3 nights later, at exactly 1:13 a.m., Kabir is struggling. He's just staring blankly at his manuscript.
Classic writer's block.
Right, and he glances up at the mirror, but the reflection of his studio is wrong.
Oh, boy.
The lights are off, the curtains are shredded, and standing right behind him in the reflection is a bruised, crying woman.
I'm genuinely putting myself in his shoes here. If I see that, I am sprinting out the front door and never coming back. Ever.
I mean, he does panic. especially when a man suddenly steps into the reflection holding a knife. Kabir watches this brutal attack unfold in the glass. Blood actually splatters across the mirror surface.
That's horrifying.
He whips around, terrified, bracing for an attacker in his real studio.
But there's nothing there. The room is totally empty.
Completely empty room. He looks back at the mirror and the glass is spotless. Perfectly normal reflection.
And instead of calling the police or like a priest or even a therapist, he sits down and writes a 70-page chapter.
He just starts typing?
That is wild to me. It's like his ambition completely overrides his basic survival instinct.
Because the vision provides the one thing he's been starving for: raw, undeniable authenticity.
Right, because his career was in trouble.
Yeah, his recent books have been tanking. Critics are calling him predictable and tired.
So this gives him an edge.
Exactly. This horrific hallucination or whatever it is bypasses his creative block completely. The writing just pours out of him. It's this grotesque transaction.
But mechanistically, what is actually happening here? I mean, are we meant to believe the mirror is a literal portal to the afterlife? Or is Kabir just, buckling under the pressure?
It's a great question.
Could this just be his own intense writer's block manifesting as a twisted stress stream?
The brilliance of the narrating is that Kabir asks himself that exact same question, and then he actively chooses the most convenient answer.
Of course he does.
He rationalizes it. He tells himself it's a stress-induced hallucination, just a quirk of his exhausted brain.
Right, because if it's just his brain, it's safe.
Exactly. Because he labels it a hallucination, he feels safe harvesting it for his book. He completely ignores the danger because the results are just so good.
His publishers are thrilled, right?
Oh, they love it. His editor even calls the new draft disturbingly authentic.
And there's that word again. Authentic. He wanted real, and now he's getting it. Because the visions keep coming, don't they?
Every single night after midnight, he sees a man strangled in a bathroom. He sees a child drowned in a bathtub.
Good Lord.
And every single time, he converts that trauma into a best-selling chapter.
It's like he's mining his own crumbling sanity for content. But, the bill always comes due. The violence doesn't stay confined to the manuscript.
No, it doesn't. Exactly 2 weeks after he drafts the first murder scene, the one inspired by that 1:13 a.m. vision, the real victim appears on the local evening news.
Why?
The precise injuries, the layout of the apartment, the time of death, it is identical to his draft.
See, I tried to pass that off as a coincidence.
Yeah.
Denial is an incredibly powerful thing when your career is finally back on track.
And he tries that. He really does. But then the second murder from his book happens in real life.
Oh, man.
Then the third.
So he finally stops writing? I mean, he realizes he's somehow causing this, or is he predicting this?
Right.
But by then, the mirror's off the leash.
Yeah.
It starts showing him these things in broad daylight.
And the nature of the visions changes too. This is where we see the psychological horror of the boiling frog mechanism.
What do you mean?
Well, initially, the mirror only showed Kabir as a passive observer. He was just a guy watching a movie in the glass.
A silent witness in his own reflection.
Precisely. The mirror slowly desensitizes him. Once he's comfortable watching the violence, it shifts the parameters.
Like turning up the heat.
Exactly. Vision by vision, Kabir's reflection starts moving closer to the attacks.
Oh, no.
Soon, he's watching himself help drag a body across the floor. Eventually, he's looking in the mirror and seeing himself calmly washing blood off his hands while humming a cheerful tune.
I try to figure out how someone doesn't completely shatter at that point. It actually reminds me of severe parasomnia.
Oh, that's an interesting connection.
Yeah, like when people are under extreme sleep deprivation and stress, the brain can literally fail to distinguish between waking reality and a dream state.
Right?
People do complex, sometimes dangerous things in their sleep and have zero memory of it.
Yeah.
It feels like cognitive dissonance on steroids.
It really does.
Kabir is watching himself do these horrific things, but his brain is throwing up every possible firewall to say, that's not me, I'm just stressed, I'm just watching.
That's exactly the psychological mechanism at play here. Admitting he has any part in this means his entire identity as a detached intellectual observer is a lie.
Right, his whole persona.
He thought he could study the darkness safely from behind glass. He didn't realize the darkness was studying him back.
Wow.
It was figuring out the exact combination to pick the lock on his morality.
Which brings us to the breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
The moment the mirror drops the disguise completely.
The confrontation.
Yeah. Kabir is in his studio on a rainy night, just chugging whiskey, terrified to even glance at the glass. and the mirror actually changes physical states.
The glass flickers, the surface turns into this churning, deep black water,
Ugh, creepy.
and a voice comes out of it whispering, "You're improving."
That is terrifying,
Yep.
because his reflection is smiling at him, but he is completely frozen in the real world.
Right. He manages to ask it what it is, and the reflection replies, "A memory."
A memory.
It explains that it doesn't just reflect violence, it stores it. It's a repository for hundreds of murders.
Yep.
And then it completely upends Kabir's reality. It says, "You inspire easily."
Oh my God.
And it shows Kabir a crystal clear vision of himself violently stabbing his own editor.
Okay, I literally had to stop and pace around the room when I read this part.
It's a massive twist.
It is, because my first instinct was, oh, it's a magic crystal ball showing him the future. But it's not.
No, not at all.
It's so much more insidious. It actually made me think of how we interact with malicious social media algorithms today.
Wait, a social media algorithm? How so?
Think about the mechanics of it.
Hmm.
When you scroll through a feed, a sophisticated algorithm isn't like predicting what you're going to do next.
Right, it's reacting to you.
Well, it's actively feeding you a slow, relentless drip of specific content. Outrage, fear, morbid curiosity, all to optimize your engagement.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It learns what keeps your eyes on the screen. And over time, that diet fundamentally alters your worldview. It shapes your baseline anxiety.
Wow, yeah.
It doesn't predict your behavior. It creates the environment that forces your behavior.
That makes perfect sense.
The mirror isn't supernatural precognition. It's an algorithm. It fed Kabir a personalized feed of violence until his psychology snapped to match it.
That is a brilliant way to understand the core twist of the narrative.
It's wild, right?
The mirror's visions were never predictions, they were suggestions. The mirror is a psychological parasite.
It's planting ideas.
Exactly. It didn't force his hand. It carefully planted seeds in his fragmented psyche. It leveraged his ambition and his professional terror.
Right.
By blurring the line between his imagination and reality, it slowly conditioned him to cross the ultimate boundary.
Wait, so if the news reports were matching his manuscript, and it wasn't a coincidence, and the mirror wasn't just showing him the future,
Kabir committed the murders.
he was doing it himself, like the whole time.
He was. The cognitive dissonance you mentioned earlier was so extreme that his conscious mind simply erased the memories.
It just wiped them.
His ego couldn't reconcile the identity of best-selling author with serial killer, so it fractured.
Unbelievable.
He would commit the murders, his mind would wipe the slate clean, and the mirror would seamlessly weave that raw trauma back into a vision for him to consume and write about.
That is incredibly bleak, and he tries to reject it.
Rightly.
He sees the vision of stabbing his editor, grabs a heavy wooden chair, and just hurls it at the glass.
But it doesn't shatter.
Right, it just cracks, and this thick, dark liquid starts oozing out of the fissure, and the reflection just smiles and says, "It already happened."
Yeah, that line is chilling. He flees to a hotel after that, just desperately trying to outrun what he's just been told.
But you can't outrun it.
No. The next morning, reality catches up. The police contact him. His editor has been found dead, exactly as the vision depicted.
Oh, man.
And worse, there's undeniable security footage showing Kabir committing the act.
So his mind completely breaks at this point. He goes back to his studio for one final confrontation.
He does. And when he looks into the cracked glass, the illusion is completely gone.
What does he see?
He sees the real victims writhing in that black liquid beneath the surface, eternally trapped.
Whoa.
And his own reflection steps forward. Its clothes are drenched in blood, its eyes are solid, pitch black, and it moves with this awful, unnatural smoothness.
Because it's not him anymore.
Right. It's no longer Kabir's reflection, it's the entity itself.
And it taunts him. It tells him that if you stare at violence long enough, you inevitably become a part of it.
The ultimate truth of the story.
At that point, Kabir just loses whatever's left of his mind. He grabs a hammer and pulverizes the mirror. He smashes into 1,000 tiny shards.
Total destruction.
But instead of dying, the reflection just steps out of the broken glass, looks at him and says, "You broke the door."
The boundary between the contained historical trauma and the present physical world is completely obliterated.
Yeah.
You broke the door implies it's no longer confined to the frame.
But here's the detail that really messes with me.
What's that?
The police finally arrive, right? They burst into the studio.
Yeah.
And what do they find?
Nothing supernatural.
Exactly. No demons, no black liquid, no trapped souls crawling on the floor. Just Kabir Malhotra, alone, babbling incoherently, surrounded by broken glass.
Right.
Does this mean the entire supernatural element was a red herring? Like, was this strictly a story about a desperate guy who had a psychotic break from consuming too much true crime?
The source material brilliantly refuses to give you the comfort of a binary answer.
It just leaves it hanging.
It synthesizes that ambiguity. Because practically speaking, it doesn't matter if it was a literal ancient demon or a complete psychological collapse.
The results are the same.
The real-world consequences are identical. The editor is dead, the victims are gone, Kabir is locked away, screaming about a cursed mirror, and the world just sees a murderer.
Wow.
The mechanism of his downfall obsession leading to desensitization, leading to violence, remains true either way.
But the physical glass is still around.
It is. The police sweep up the fragments, bag them, and toss them into an evidence lockup.
Which is a terrible idea.
Well, the narrative closes by detailing how things in that storage facility begin to feel off.
Yeah.
Officers start catching glimpses of movement in the bagged shards out of the corners of their eyes, reflections that move a fraction of a second too late.
Creepy.
And every few months, a violent, inexplicable crime occurs nearby, always involving someone who had spent just a little too long looking into the shattered glass.
It mutated. It became a virus.
It adapted to a new environment. The very last image we get is a description of one specific shard of glass sitting in an evidence bag.
And what's in it?
Well, Kabir isn't reflected in it anymore. Something at least entirely is staring back out.
Oh, wow.
The hunger for new trauma survives. You can't destroy it with a hammer. It just waits to be passed on to the next person.
Yeah.
Arrogant enough to think they can stare into the abyss without it staring back.
Wow. Okay, let's pull all of this together for you.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
We started with this deeply relatable fear, right? A creator desperate for inspiration, seeking a shortcut to authenticity. He finds this antique mirror that seemingly cures his writer's block by feeding him perfect, brutal visions.
But there are no shortcuts.
Exactly. The horrifying reality is that the mirror wasn't a window to the future. It was a psychological parasite.
Yeah.
It preyed on his intellectual arrogance, slowly dissolving the barrier between his imagination and his reality until he literally became the active perpetrator of the violence he thought he was just observing.
It is a profound exploration of the mechanics of consumption. Kabir believes he was consuming these horrific visions to create art.
Right?
He failed to realize that the visions were slowly, methodically consuming him. The fundamental takeaway here is a warning.
And what is that warning?
The things we choose to look at intently, day after day, eventually lay the bricks for the architecture of our own minds.
Which brings us to a final thought we want to leave you with today. Something to sit with after you finish listening to this deep dive.
Yeah, something to chew on.
We've spent this time unpacking the dangers of an antique Victorian mirror that absorbs and projects the trauma of its past. But I want you to think about the screens you stare into every single day. Your phone, your laptop, your television.
They are literally made of glass.
They are black mirrors.
Mm.
And every day, they reflect your face while simultaneously pumping an endless, algorithmically optimized stream of human trauma, outrage, true crime, and global anxiety directly into your retinas.
The psychological parallels are just impossible to ignore.
They really are.
Yeah.
So, if a Victorian mirror could groom a man by feeding him violence, what kind of memories are the black mirrors in our pockets storing up?
That's a chilling thought.
And far more terrifyingly, what kinds of realities are they slowly, imperceptibly suggesting that we create?